session. So keep your comments, your inquiries, your feedback, because from here we expect to pick some important things that as a country we should be able to pick and take forward. I'm told my badge was put where the government of Kenya is, that's why I have this one. So I have learned that I'm part of government now, and therefore whatever needs to get to the government, we have the CEC for Nairobi in health, and we work as one Kenya, so anything that needs to get to the right place will get to the right place. So without further ado, and I believe we'll go from here that way, I'll ask my panelists to introduce themselves, starting with my classmate next to me.
Thanks, Gakombe. My name is Dr. Amit Thaka. I am the chair of Africa Health Business, a boutique health consulting and investment firm based out of Nairobi, but headquartered in Kenya. We work in about 27 countries. I also am the president of Africa Healthcare Federation that incorporates 33 countries in Africa, Kenya being one of them. And you'll hear about the Kenya Healthcare Federation, which I was the chair with my classmate before. And in addition to that, I am the chair of the Kenya Health Professional Oversight Authority, a new authority that has been designed to bring harmony into the health sector, to coordinate trade and engagements with many of you who are looking at doing business with Kenya. So that's what I do, and I'm really happy to be on this panel. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Soumeya. I know it's quite unusual for you, so I go also with Mumbi, just in case. I work with Biomérieux, and my position is, there are two positions I actually do: industry business manager in East Africa and global account manager in Africa, meaning I travel a lot. The company has settled in Kenya in 2019. I am assuming that most of you may not know about Biomérieux, so I will just take a minute to give you a few information about the company. So it's a French family-owned company that is turning 60 this year. We are based in France, as I said, and we are operating worldwide. Our expertise is in microbiology, and our specialty is in rapid diagnostic. We generated in 2021 3.6 billion euros. 85% of this amount was made in clinical, and 15% was made in industry, meaning food and pharmaceuticals. As I said, so we are specialized in rapid testing. We manufacture solutions that are able to offer a very quick time to result in order to make a diagnostic, either with a patient sample or on food, or to test sterility of drugs. And I think I told you enough already.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Anastasia Nyalita. I'm the Chief Executive County Chief. It's new. CEC, County Executive Committee Member for Health, Wellness and Nutrition. In Nairobi County, we have named it to be purposely output-based, yeah, rather than your traditional CEC for health. So it's like the Minister for Health at the county level. I'm born and bred in private sector, so I have a very strong private sector background. My immediate assignment was the CEO of Kenya Healthcare Federation, so Dr. Gakombe was my immediate boss. I've seen my successor here, so I'm very delighted at that. Of course, I've worked with Amit before he transitioned out from the board. I have a pharmaceutical background. I'm a pharmacist. Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, for those of you who know. Chief Executive Officer, and in December 8th, last year, I was called upon by His Excellency the Governor to serve as the Minister for Health for the Nairobi County. I'll tell you a little bit about Nairobi County later, but what I can tell you for now is that Nairobi is open for business, so you're welcome. Thank you.
projects running in Tanzania and Somalia. In the healthcare infrastructure space, we are in medical gases, nurse call technologies, pneumatic tube systems, and modular theaters as well. In terms of what we're doing at the moment, we have a lot of opportunities in the medical equipment space and the infrastructure technology space. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Petr Voigt. I'm the Vice Chairman of Czech Association of Healthcare Producers and Manufacturers, and a Sales Director of Linet, which is the biggest producer of hospital beds in the world, coming from Czech Republic. And I'm very delighted to be here today because I would like to focus and I would like to talk about strengthening of education in our healthcare segment. I would like to talk about primary care today. I would like to talk about topics where companies are not anymore supplying products, but are supplying solutions to governments, to counties. And I feel that we as producers get much more linked to universities, education facilities, and this is very exciting that the industry is actually turning into a new way how to do business. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Ambrose Mutua. I work for AstraZeneca, and I'm here to represent my colleague Arpit Bazal, who had to travel out of the country. But just to give you a small overview, what I do is I work in the product accessibility, product access for our products across the sub-Saharan Africa region. And so maybe I'll touch a bit more on that as we move on. But for AstraZeneca, as you know, it's a biopharmaceutical company based in Cambridge. It's Anglo-Swedish. I think COVID was more of a harsh way to introduce ourselves into the, to most of the households. But we have been actually in operation in, particularly in Kenya for 25 years or more. So, pleasure.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the panelists. I have to inform you that one of the panelists couldn't make it from Unizima because of some emergency, but we're very happy to have you all to discuss. So I'm Sarah Witt-Brook-Landé. I'm the Regional Global Health Advisor for the French embassies in Eastern Africa. And I'm really happy and honored to be here to moderate this session, co-moderate this session. So as you heard, we have a panel that are invested in the different pillars of the health sector. But before we dive into the discussions, I would like to invite Dr. Nyelita so that she can give us an overview of the public health sector in Kenya.
I will give you a bit about Nairobi County, because then Kenya will be given at the national level. So just briefly in terms of the county, so we have about the facilities that are registered, because I know that will be your area of interest, will be about 900, out of which about 119 are for public sector. Yeah. What I want to let you know is that one of the things when the governor was sworn in on his 20th day, what he did was to appoint a task force, a health reforms task force, to really look at what needs to be done on matters health for the county and make recommendations. And this was done. So if you look at, Nairobi, generally 10% of the national population, it means 10% of the disease burden, which means if you look at it from the opportunities, then you're looking at really a big percentage of the business opportunity in Nairobi. Of course, Nairobi being also the capital city, it's a hub, so that presents a business opportunity for investors as well. And I'm sure you have seen, and for those of you who have already set base here, you have seen the opportunities that there is. So we have both public, private, and faith-based. So, and of course we have a lot of NGOs on the ground. We have a lot of partners. We have a lot of international organizations that are set up. Personally, I've only worked for multinationals, Procter & Gamble, Eli Lilly, and for 12 years with Bayer. So that gives you an indication. And when these guys set up base here, then they spread their wings within the region and to a great extent within the sub-Saharan Africa. Primarily, of course, Anglophone, but some, of course, Francophone. And they have a map on how, they extend beyond the region. But Nairobi is, of course, the place to be, the place to invest. From a county perspective, we know what opportunities there are. I think this is not the right time to talk about them. I don't know if it's the right time to talk about them.
We'll come back, I think, to the opportunities.
Yeah. But generally, just think of Nairobi as 10% of what you can invest in Kenya. And it's a hub for the region. And it's a hub for, Sub-Saharan Africa. Very diligent, HRH, very good connectivity, and so on and so forth. So I just want to give it very high, overview before I dig deeper into the detail of what are the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anita. Let me direct the question now to Dr. Takar, because as chair of the East African Health Federation, can you tell us a bit more about why Kenya, what's the uniqueness of Kenya, and if there are any incentives and what are the conditions, arrangements maybe between
Sure.
Kenya and other external foreign countries?
Yeah, great. It's a good question. And nowadays, you all know when you're doing business in Africa, you're looking at the regional economic hubs. They call it RECs. So Kenya is part of the East African community. And ECOWAS has 15 countries, so does SADC. And everyone trying to do business from Europe into Africa should be looking at a bigger market, and they should be looking at RECs. Kenya is almost 50% of the market of the RECs. We, in healthcare, actually command half of the total healthcare spend in the region. This was before Congo was brought in. We may be diluted by another 10 or 20%, but if you add Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, this is where it was. Why? Why Kenya? I think Kenya had regulation, and it had thought of partnerships very early on, before its neighboring countries. So private sector was allowed to get a license. I remember buying a license to operate a clinic where it wasn't difficult. And many predecessors before me were able to get a license. There were certain licenses that were not available in Kenya and were very reserved for the government, such as education and health education. And suddenly, we've also started receiving licenses to train our young graduates. You will see technical courses. You will see Kenya also having private sector getting involved into health education and training. So services started a long time ago. This led to a very vibrant private sector in Kenya, which has two significant pillars. One is the faith-based organization pillar. That came many, many years ago. And the second is the commercial pillar that started looking at setting up services, product delivery, supply chain, with a purpose of making impact, but also sustainable by making a return. And in Kenya, it was so clear that what evolved was that the service delivery came first, and then the insurance model came. We only had, when in the early 60s, 70s, we had about 3 insurance companies offering medical. Now we have over 21 medical insurance companies, private, offering medical insurance, and the premium is close to $600 million. And this money is available for doing business because you have insured clients. But in addition to that, you have another $600 million coming from the public sector insurer, which is NHIF. So NHIF as one insurer is equal to 20 insurance companies in the private sector. Combined, you have a pooled market of $1.2 billion available to go into the health sector. Out-of-pocket expenses still remain a challenge in Kenya, and it's close to twice the amount that I gave you, which is in the risk pooling system. So totally, the market is pretty strong. I think it's a good mix in Kenya of public and private sector. The regulatory framework is great, And I think all this with the good human capital, English speaking, youthful staff in health industry makes the answer of why Kenya.
Thank you so much. Before we dive into exploring the different sectors, I'll invite back Dr. Nalita to give us a bit of the business development environment and opportunities in the Nairobi County. Yeah.
So we talk about the business opportunities now. Okay, good. With the health sector reforms report, it highlighted exactly what are the things that need to be done on short term, long term, mid term, etc. If you look at service delivery, Nairobi is just getting its first ICU, which will be launched on the 8th of March by His Excellency, the Governor of Nairobi, Governor Sakaja. And that's one. So we have 5 level 5 hospitals. That's like the highest at county level. From there you go to level 6, which is a national, whatever. We will be putting up about, each of the level 5s will have an ICU, so that's a business opportunity already there. The next work is satellite blood banks for the same levels. Again, that's another opportunity for investment. We want to go paperless as a county. That's integrated health information system. That's another opportunity for investment. We want to ensure that all our private, what are they called, public sector facilities can provide a better care than the private sector, and they can, because it's the same HR, it's the same human resource expertise, everything. The advantage we have is that we are funded by taxpayers, so there's no reason why. One of the things also we want to do in addition to HMIS is to make sure that our labs from level 2, because level 2 is the lowest, to level 5, are working, and an opportunity for placement of laboratories, of laboratory equipment. Very important, yeah? So those are things we're looking at. Of course, if you look at supply chain, you know, I'm looking at our suppliers here. Granted that we source most of the commodities through KEMSA, but there are those that KEMSA doesn't have. Again, we do open tenders, so watch out for open tenders on our website. That's very important. In terms of HRH, human resources for health, capacity building, partnerships, etc. There's an opportunity also because we have very many facilities. There's an opportunity also for public-private partnerships. Very important. That's an opportunity you need to take advantage of. Matters health financing. Yeah. We know, as you've seen, a number of the public service provider players, like the police, are going from NHIF to private service providers.
here in Kenya. We did, for example, work with every single county to ensure that when our mothers have their children, needing nebulization, they can actually be nebulized. And we actually did work with all the 47 counties to ensure that that is possible in their.
Today's discussion is capacity of a healthcare system. And this is basically, each of us, we tackle it from a different side. Education is helping in first hand to make sure that the products that are used in hospitals are well maintained. Therefore, that the products are correctly maintained and that the life cycle of the product is much longer than if this wasn't the case. So I would divide the education into education of biomed engineers, as you mentioned. Then I would divide it to education of caregivers. Because if a caregiver is using the product correctly, then you get productivity of the healthcare, increasing the capacity again. And what is our solution for this? It's concept of center of excellences. We feel that, and I will be talking in behalf of European producers, we feel that our role is to convince governments, institutions, that by investing into our products, into our solutions, there are gains from it. But this doesn't go alone. We cannot be selling products to any country. We need to be offering a complete solution to Kenya that goes in hand with education programs. And it's our duty to show our customers that by investing into our technology, they are getting something else. And I have visited several countries in Africa, and I had always these questions: why should we buy more expensive crucial one? And I'm saying that if we improve the sustainability of the product by correct educating programs, and this is not just about one single company, but this is about companies being together. My vision is that we are creating a center of excellence that is not only a center of excellence of one single company, but it is a center of excellence of your suppliers to the healthcare system. I'm looking so much forward when Czech companies, French companies, Slovak companies, German companies are going to be working together on improving the capacity of the healthcare through education of the personnel. So that would be the vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And give us a perspective from the regional aspect as well.
Thank you. So actually, my colleague panelist has just mentioned some of the points that are very important. I think on my side as medical technology in the infrastructure space, the capital cost of bringing in infrastructure technology like IP-based nurse call systems, pneumatic tube systems, these are going to have efficiency benefits, so longer ROIs for the hospital. So when a budget for infrastructure construction is being made, these are normally the first things to be cut off. So we do have the challenge of getting the hospitals, both private and government, to implement these technologies that have huge benefits in the long run to patient care, so more efficient care. So the opportunity that we would like to present here as well is the manufacture and assembly of medical equipment in Kenya. So Medway Solutions, the company, has actually done a couple of POCs, proof of concepts, and this is what we have learned. Companies out there, even in Europe, they're always, the research and the design departments are always working to create more sophisticated equipment, more internet-connected pieces. But as Kenya, as the region, we need more frugal technologies. We need simple technologies. And the opportunity to create, assemble, and even customize medical equipment in the region is an important maternal health care, because that's the easiest way to give an example. An incubator coming in from Europe, which has sophisticated oxygen sensors, and sorry, I don't want to go too much technical, but they're going for higher technology. We need the basic technologies. We need to equip level 2 facilities. We need to equip level 3 facilities. And I think the market is going to change, and we need to now start concentrating on basic, functional, easy to maintain, easy to use equipment. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those contributions. I turn it over to my co-moderator, Kokomi, for the remaining of the panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for moderating that session so well. We are moving to the point where we'll open the floor, but even as we do so, I'd like to do a couple of things. One, I'd like Dr. Theuri to stand so that you have a point of contact. Dr. Theuri is the CEO of the Kenya Healthcare Federation. Part of the problem that, you may see Dr. Part of the problem in coming to do business here is not knowing who can handhold so that you talk to the right people, so that you stay on the right side of the law, and you avoid problems to do with corruption, where people are telling you, people like Dr. Nyalita are very difficult to see, they have to be taken envelopes of various colors. So Dr. Theuri will put you through the Kenya Healthcare Federation in touch with the right people. I believe he has half of government on speed dial. And between him, Dr. Thaka, myself, Dr. Nyalita, you are pretty well connected with people who genuinely want what is best for this country, and will therefore put you in touch with people who can help you without asking you for an envelope of whatever description, unless it's Dr. Amit, who is officially in the business of connecting people, and he gives you an official invoice inclusive of VAT, if VAT is allowed as a claimable expense where you come from. So please make sure you network with the right people so that you do not get a bad Kenya experience because you connected with our local thugs who specialize in taking resources from foreigners and telling them what a difficult country we are, because that's the only way they can justify what they're asking you for. We are open. The Kenya Healthcare Federation has over 200 members. Dr. Nyalita was the CEO before. Dr. Amit was the chairman before me. We take care of the entire healthcare value chain. 2, our president was here earlier today. We have gone through 5 presidential transitions, most of them very peaceful. We have had presidential elections contested at the Supreme Court. And presidents, despite being commanders-in-chief of the army, have subjected themselves to the will of the people a second time. My point is, there is a pretty good level of respect for the rule of law. Because if you're an investor, you want to know that the law will protect you if you need the protection of the law from those who may otherwise wish to take advantage of you. Our legal framework is developing. It's pretty well developed compared to the region, and you're working to improve our political, legal, and economic environment. And in fact, the fact that Amit and Niraj are sitting here should be a great example for you. Their relatives, their ancestors moved here, 100 years back. They have been in this country doing business for all that time and making a success of this country they choose to make home. So you too are welcome to do business in this country. And one of the best advantages for you is that we don't have enough of anything. So even if you ignore all the opportunities Dr. Nyalita mentioned, the reality of the matter is we have 50 million people who do not have enough of anything. And around us are countries who are in a similar situation. The only reason they do not have enough of everything is because it's not that they don't know good things, it is that they cannot afford them. But that we are addressing by the way we are organizing, for example, healthcare financing. We are addressing by opening our economies to foreign investment. We are addressing by using the private sector as the engine for economic growth. Because the confusion of the 60s and the 70s, whether to be socialist, communist, capitalist, we settled that some time back. And in this country, we say the private sector is the engine of growth for the country's development. Finally, as a private sector, we are a non-mineral economy. Our government does not have the luxury of sinking one mine in some place and getting enough revenue to fund it. We are her taxpayers. We are her sponsors. We are her funders, as is the national government. And that means we have a government that is open to listening to its citizens because they are the ones who fund it. And should they choose to withhold their wallets, there will be no money to fund the Kenya government. So the fact that we are primarily a service economy makes government open and amenable to listening to the people who do the funding. We are open for business, and we are open to questions and suggestions. If I don't see you, it's because I'm visually challenged. So, should be on the lookout. Do we have a microphone? Or shall we speak? Yes.
I think at this occasion the panelists should also
there we
feel free to react and comment.
There is a mic in the house.
So, hello. Okay.
Yes.
My name is Anthony.
Yes,
Anthony. And recently we had a story. We read a story about a person who was disabled. She couldn't hear. She was a deaf. So what is the government, or what are your plans when it comes to those people with disability?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Take that one.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped into it. We are deliberate in ensuring that we are integrating disabilities in everything that we do. Starting from our facilities, you will find in some, especially level 5, but we're going to scale that up. We have a sign language. The customer care person is also sign language enabled. We're working with the Institute of the Disabilities somewhere in whatever to just make sure that we enhance our people. Our facilities also are going to be disability friendly, whether it is access or otherwise. We have a disability integration agenda, which is ingrained. So it is a priority. It is non-negotiable. And it is in our CIDP. CIDP is the County Integrated Development Plan, which basically spans 5 years, but also informs all the other plans and budgets therein. So we are very conscious, and we are deliberately ensuring that in whatever we do, as we provide our service and otherwise, but also that it's not only a county public sector thing, but it is a county-wide. That will become a requirement for all the facilities, for all the service delivery points. So that's at the center of our what we must do. Yeah.
And if I might add a couple of things. Medically, we are able to do quite a lot. We are actually doing cochlear implants in this country. So people who have hearing or visual disabilities, or whatever disability that can be addressed medically, there is quite a bit that we are increasingly able to do. I run a hospital. We are doing spine surgeries every day and helping people get back on their feet. And we have charitable hospitals that deal with ears, feet, children's feet, eyes, like the Lions Eyesight Hospital. So there's quite a bit going on. And at taxation level, those who are handicapped actually have tax, they start at a much higher tax bracket than the rest of us. And we are now, as KHF, fighting to have parents who have handicapped children and have one, to also get tax rebates because they are spending more than the average parent on taking care of their children. So there is quite a lot going on, and we all need to make a case, because our experience with government is that there are people like us, and many times they need input from concerned citizens to put in place the necessary laws or infrastructure for taking care of the people.
So maybe just one addition. It's also a requirement that in your hiring and otherwise, you also have to ensure that there is a priority given to people with disabilities. And there's also a registration for people with disabilities. There's a vetting process. So really a priority for the,
Okay, thank you so much for those conversations. My name is Benda Kithaka. I'm a health advocate with Kilele Health, and we work with cancer survivors and caregivers as voices of hope, as well as voices for policy advocacy, so that we can help systems develop for health system strengthening for service delivery. So my two questions, go to both Peter Ambrose and Dr. Nyalita Waziri. And the question is in terms of harnessing the opportunity that exists in getting people who have lived experience to go back to the healthcare system as voices of change to inform health system strengthening. This question goes to Peter. What best practice can you give us from the Czech Republic? You mentioned earlier that you do training for healthcare workers. What best practice can we learn from that in integrating patient organization bodies as voices for health system strengthening? And to Waziri, when we have a room full of investors and we're looking at the role that partners play in delivering healthcare services in the country, what can we package or put together as private-public partnerships that also involve patient voices on the table, so that we're informing decisions not just from top down, but also we're informing the people who are actually being served by the healthcare system? And to Ambrose, how well do you work with patient bodies and patient organizations? Thank you.
Well, and let me take it. I think that we should be making of every disadvantage an advantage. In Europe, we have migration of healthcare workers. People from Czech Republic tend to work in Germany, people from Germany tend to work in Sweden, from Sweden in Norway. And there is a big immigration of these specialists. And what we have as statistics from the Ministry of Health in Czech Republic is that these people tend to continue educated and they return to the country once. And I know that in Kenya you do have an issue. You have a lackage of doctors, of nurses, and mainly because of your nurses and doctors working in other countries. So first of all, using the skills of these people that gain it in UK, in the US, once they come back, because they will return. And there, the sharing of practices from systems around the world is the best. And I feel that we haven't touched one topic, which is the essential care. And this is the primary care. And I feel that if you have a good system of primary care, that these educated people in other countries can be really sharing experience about how the systems are working overseas. So my recommendation would be utilization of these people coming back, and obviously sharing between public and private. It tends to be that private segment has better equipment, that has more money actually, then these specialists needs to be working in the public system as well. So 2 rules: using your capacities abroad when they come back, and second is public-private cooperation in education and in sharing of knowledge.
Okay, on the patient voices when it comes to investment opportunities or PPP, I think, I'm not sure how developed the patient voice is in Kenya, and that's something we need to scale up. Because even, when I was in private sector, which was just like 2 months ago, in whatever we did all partners, but the patient groups were not as strong. The only patient group I know which is very strong is the National NCD Alliance. But if you look at it, is it the practitioners, is it the health professionals in it, or is it the patients? Yeah. So for me, that's a voice we must amplify. From a public perspective, you have a big opportunity because the Public Finance Management Act mandates us to ensure that in our CIDP, in our annual plans, in our you have the stakeholders' involvement. It is provided for in the law. Not only the public-private, not only the, the stakeholder engagement or, call for memorandum, but they need to be part and parcel of a journey of formulating what we do as a private sector, starting with the CIDP, the County Implementation Integrated, that one, Development Plan, yeah? If you look at today's paper, we've advertised for, please participate. We have called for memorandum. There will be public participation on, I think it's Monday, 27th. Please participate. That's your opportunity to start. The next level will be now when we are doing the budgets. It is your right. It is provided for in the Act. You need to participate. And then annual development plans, the midterm evaluation, all those, the entire works. You can look at the Act. It's very clearly defined. But the challenge for me, to all of us, is to ensure that not only the patient is at the center of what we do, but is actually part of the journey that we're walking. It's on the table. So I would but the best way to engage is also to ensure that you have an umbrella organization, the one voice, very important. But we need to know who they are so that we can actually formally engage them. Personally, I'm very committed to that, and maybe these guys don't know, but there will be, I've identified that opportunity, and we will be sending out, call for nominations from the different umbrella organizations to sit in our sector working groups for this annual and whatever. So that's an important one, but the challenge we have is that the voice is not very well developed, and we must scale up that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda, for your question. I think most of us would really love to hear the voice of the patient more. Even us in the private pharma, the industry, we would want to hear that voice more, because with that, it really kind of guides us on how to resource, how to, position ourselves. And I can give you an example of one scenario where we did, work a lot with partners. So, for example, as I mentioned, we worked a lot with AMREF, with the KCCB, which is Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, CHAC, which is, Catholic Christian Health Association, Christian Hospital Association of Kenya, and other partners like PATH and so on, to actually bring out the patient voice. And this was one of our, mega initiatives, which is Healthy at Africa, HHA. And they were able actually to create what you'd call local-based, facility-based patient support groups that actually resulted to very good things. And for example, one of the things that came out in those PSGs was they were able to come up with clinic days, dedicated clinic days for hypertension and diabetes across, the facilities, some of the facilities that were implementing this. These were non-existent. Everybody was lumped together in the, internal medicine, clinic for reviews. But they were able to get their own special day, which is dedicated for them. And with that, then they would get even what you call patient education, even before the clinical work begins from the clinicians, and even other patients would support them. And we are looking at these, examples more to borrow them and actually work especially to strengthen the cancer space, because that's another area where it's a bit of devoid of that, that type of, of support to the patients. To be able for even a patient to speak to another patient and give them hope. A patient also to be able to, through these PSGs, they can be able to actually go to Nyalita and put some pressure for some of dialogue, yeah, for policy changes that they may also be looking at them, but they're also not sure to go this way or that way. The goodwill will be there, but sometimes hearing that voice brings clarity. to what needs to be done. So it's something we are ready for and we support.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize, my voice is a bit husky. It's always tough convincing people that it's a lady on the phone. That being said, my question is actually to Dr. Nyalita on a very light note. So Kenya is already known for tourism. The whole world knows us for tourism. Why not medical tourism? And the reason I ask this is because we already have quite a vibrant sector. I promise I've not been a victim under the knife yet, but we already have quite a vibrant sector which does, liposuctions and Botox and name it. Any cosmetic procedure, I think you can locally have it done, breast augmentation. And there's nothing stopping us, for example, as a government, saying, while you're coming to Kenya, before you go to Diani or before you go to the Masai Mara, stop by one of our amazing hospitals, get a procedure here and there, then go recover on the beach. Seriously, I think it's something
Absolutely, you're right. I
Thank you
mean,
very
last
much.
year we
Yes.
had, as KHF, we hosted the regional trade expo, and among the thematic areas was medical tourism. That's number one. Number two, prior to that, and what informed that is because the national government, MOH, had invited case. Okay, didn't quite take off, but at least it informed this, and I believe this year we'll have that. The good thing also we know is that at the time, at the Ministry of Health, they even formed a working group or a unit on medical tourism. So the challenge is for private sector as Kenya Healthcare Federation to drive that agenda in partnership with government. Of course, we have whatever it takes in Nairobi, and that's why us as a county, we're investing also in the blood bank. I mean, in satellite blood banks, because remember, if you're doing those specialized things, you need blood and blood products. And also we're making sure that we are catching up and exceeding what also the private sector is offering. But if you look at it holistically, the opportunity, I mean, look at the different hospitals we have, whether it's public sector or private sector. There you go. But I want to throw it to my former chair, so that because I know he's very passionate about that, and we had that discussion at the time, and we were driving that agenda.
Maybe I can just add to that. I think it's a good suggestion, but I think reality is also important, a reality check. I would like to change that name to medical travel rather than tourism. And if you look at all our neighboring countries, we serve close to 16 countries commonly as patients already. If we keep costs down and we bring quality up, we will do what India has done to ensure that the neighboring countries start coming here. And medical travel is the first step before we talk about the beach and the Mara. The idea is to get that treatment done properly at an affordable price. So I think we're on the right track, and I think Kenya has got all the ingredients to be the regional center for East and Central Africa. But we've got to fix pricing, and we've got to fix quality, and we've got to fix the whole immigration and also the skies. You know how expensive it is to travel also within Africa. So if we fix that and the visa system, I think we are on to a good platform.
Thank you, Amit and Nyalita. There are certain practical things going on. Number one, to travel out of Kenya for treatment abroad is now a lot more regulated than it used to be before. Because the idea was, A, upgrade the infrastructure here so that the care can be available here. And B, those who are traveling out, travel because they actually need the care that they need. They are not being sent there for reasons other than medical. So that means there's more work to do. And the hospital I ran, the farthest patient we've looked after was from Mali. And we struggled a lot with language because the French we know is not the French he was speaking. So we also have a language issue to fix so that those who come here feel comfortable and welcome. But the truth of the matter is that Kenya is already a regional hub for healthcare. We simply need to scale up by addressing the issues that Nyalita and Dr. Amit have talked about. And we are working on it as a federation, very hard.
Allow me to share an experience of Czech Republic, because Czech Republic is as beautiful as Kenya is. And we were using our healthcare system for medical tourism a lot. Because the healthcare system is good, the country is offering tourism attraction. So basically people were coming for the light treatments for 2 days and they would stay over the weekend. And this is exactly what I would be recommending because it brings money into the healthcare system. And it focuses, it makes hospitals invest into good care. So my full recommendation.
Is very dynamic in Kenya, and one of the cooperation sectors for EU is digital health. So I would like to have your take on what are the opportunities really in the digital health in Kenya, and you know, what remains to be done. I know the country is at 30% digitalized, but President Ruto is scaling that up. So what do you see as opportunity?
Yeah, tomorrow we have a discussion with the MOH, Digital Health Platform team. It's also one of the things that came out of the health sector reforms report that we did as a county. And you'll be very surprised that the Ministry of Health Digital Health Platform came tops. They've already made the presentation to us as a county. Tomorrow they make the presentation to His Excellency the Governor, so that we can see. And it's already, been used in 1 or 2 facilities which we have visited. So, as I said at the beginning, our desire, and we must go paperless because, of course, the efficiencies that come with it across the board. So if you look at the public sector, and we have 118, just Nairobi County alone has 118 facilities that must be connected end to end. If you look at private sector, they have a lot more facilities, but of course those ones are, more or less not as, connected as we are, because then they tend to be owned by different individuals. Again, depending on how many there are, you have multiple, multiple connectivity. But that's just on the service delivery side. You have a supply chain as well, which needs to be digitized to avoid to integrate it to the service delivery. Very important. At least for us, as a county also, we're looking, whatever solution we'll get, it must also integrate with KEMSA and also go all the way to where the patient gets the drugs. So I think for us, the opportunity for digitization is huge on matters health, telemedicine. The private sector players will tell you that. So maybe they can add on to what are the opportunities. But from public sector, it's very clear for us what we need to do. Yeah.
Just to add to what Nalita is saying, we all know what happened during the pandemic. And if you looked at the report that 3,500 new digital health companies were established in Africa, and 4 countries were seen as hotspots where the largest number of investments went. One was Nigeria, then it was Egypt, it was Kenya, and South Africa. This report In Kenya, it was illegal to offer virtual consultations before the pandemic, for example. And now we've got over 75 licenses issued. What this just tells you is that the digital health opportunity is rising. And I think the government is also taking the pace of creating an appropriate regulatory forum. And there was no form to apply as a virtual medical provider. Today, if you go to the website of KMPDC, there's a form you can download. It tells you what is your health facility, what is the name of your virtual health facility, who is the license. So the environment is robust to allow digital health to happen. What I think should be a concern is the right kind of solutions for what the country needs. And it should be through an assessment of what does Kenya really look for and what do we need right now. If you look at Kenya Kwanza, our government manifesto, of the 5 pillars that are clearly identified, one of them is about electronic health records. They call it EHR. And we believe that that will provide more efficiency and reduce perhaps the losses and improve the quality. If you look at the private sector, there are plenty of new players in the market. Everyone's sinking their initial investments right now. They're spending a lot with the hope that a lot of uptake will be there in the future to see the upside. Look at all the large players, Google, Microsoft, all of them now have a health division that is significant, which never used to exist 2 decades ago. So digital space is a brilliant one to be involved in. Tony is here, he's in the digital space, and you know, that's like an e-pharmacy. We didn't have, and all those who have not used My Dawa as an application, let me tell you, to get your medications delivered to your office, your home, I mean, it's so great, it's convenient, but we need to have more integrated digital services. So I think the scope is huge.
If I may add, I'm actually in digital health myself. I design software for entertainment. Yes, to pass time of day. The opportunity is very, very significant because Kenya as a country committed to e-government about 15 years ago when we created a directorate of e-governments during Mwai Kibaki's time. That is about 20 years back. And we are digitizing government. We're just working on the land records right now. We have digitized the vehicle registry. We've digitized the company registry. We've gotten to the point where we can't go back. It is impossible with M-Pesa and the electronic payment systems to go back. I last used a checkbook 7 years ago. We don't need it, right? My doctors are prescribing online. I'll connect them to My Dawa because we built a digital platform so that my doctors are able to practice on the go. What are the opportunities? Payment platforms and claims management. If we are going to do UHC, there is no way we are going to do that with paper claims coming from 50 million people. The cost will just be too much. So the payment, connecting payers and providers is big. Connecting service providers like My Dawa, like hospitals, service provider systems is big. Patient records, so that patients have their records in wallets and they can move from Thaka to me and to Nyalita with their records, their prescriptions with them. There is space there. Electronic records in our space. We are the only hospital that is connected to the Ministry of Health electronically so that we can submit our data every day. And the government itself has built the backbone. It has built the fiber optic backbone. It has built the software backbone for hospitals to plug into. So supply chain, medical facilities, patient systems, essentially the entire ecosystem will not be able to operate without digitization. And KHF has a digital health committee which is working hard to try and create connectedness. We have legal reforms to deal with. It is my x-rays are reported in the UK by Egyptian radiologists. The trouble is a Kenyan must countersign because they are not credentialed to work here. They are very qualified. We credentialed them online, but they are not allowed to practice in Kenya. We have payment solutions to figure out how the money flows. Fortunately, we have M-Pesa and other digital solutions. And we have regulators to play catch-up. But that's a space that will grow, and the only way we'll ever catch up with Europe and other developed countries is by taking full advantage of the digital dividend.
There's no more questions. I think we'll end here. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for all the panelists for your very insightful contribution and discussions we've had. So thank you.